The first time I saw this apartment, it was no different from the hundreds of others I'd looked at over the past 2 weeks. An old building with a peeling facade, an entrance where the light above the door either doesn't work at all or burns too brightly, as if someone turned it on just for me. In the middle of November, a light that bright feels like a joke. 10th floor, the realtor sighed. The elevator works, well, almost always. If anything, don't be mad at the building. It has its own character. I smiled. I thought it was just something she said to fill the silence. As we rode up in the creaking elevator, I stared at the panel with the buttons. The 10 button was worn down, polished by many fingers. Next to it, someone had scratched it with a key, turning the number into a crooked letter G. The elevator doors opened, and the first thing I heard was silence. Not the usual stairwell kind, a thick silence, so heavy that even the realtor's footsteps sounded foreign. The apartment was at the end of a long corridor. Dark metal door with a tiny peephole that looked like an eye. An old key from the previous tenant was still stuck in the lock. The owner is abroad now, she said as she fiddled with a new set of keys. He's renting it out cheap. Said the main thing is that you pay on time and don't get scared by small things. What kind of small things? I asked, mostly out of politeness. She shrugged. The lock finally clicked, and we went inside. The apartment was strangely empty, but tidy. Gray ceiling, old parquet with marks where furniture had once stood. In the kitchen, a Soviet-era table, one stool, and a fridge humming evenly like the heart of a tired person. In the living room, only an old sofa and a small coffee table. By the wall, a narrow shelf with a black, very old rotary phone on it. Oh, retro, I said. Does it work? No, the line's been dead for years, the realtor waved her hand. You can throw it away if it bothers you. The owner said, that weird things happen with it, but that's... She didn't finish. What kind of weird things? I asked, still smiling. She hesitated, as if regretting she'd said anything at all. Well, you'll be living here, right? Maybe it's better not to plant ideas in your head. Neighbors love to make up stories about special apartments. Old building, you know. Every entrance has its own legend. She showed me the bathroom, the small bedroom, and the glazed balcony with a view of gray rooftops and black trees below. The apartment was cold, but there was something comfortable in it. As if it had been waiting for someone to bring life back into it. I signed the rental contract that same day. Not because of some sign from above. Just because the price was low and I'd long wanted silence and my own space. When the realtor left, I was alone. I stood in the middle of the living room, just the sofa, the table, and that black phone. The silence felt a little thicker. I walked up to the phone. The cord hung down and ended in bare wires, the end ripped off, the inside sticking out like torn veins. I put my hand on the heavy receiver. It was cold. I can just throw you out, I muttered. You'll only collect dust. I lifted the receiver, just out of curiosity. There was nothing. Total silence. Not even the faint static you sometimes hear on a dead line. I put it back. That first night I was woken by a sound I hadn't heard in years. The sharp, trilling ring of an old phone. I was dreaming something gray and sticky, so at first I didn't realize it was real. The phone kept ringing stubbornly, for a long time, like it knew I was hesitating to wake up. I sat up. My heart was pounding way harder than the situation deserved. The living room was lit by a weak yellow glow from the hallway. I'd fallen asleep without turning the light off there. The phone sat on the table, black, alien, trembling with the ring. The cord still ended with exposed wires. I stepped closer and saw that the time was 3:34. Red digits on a cheap alarm clock on the floor blinked in sync with my heartbeat. I picked up the receiver. "Hello," I said almost in a whisper. For a moment there was only breathing. Long, rough, slightly familiar breathing. "Don't be scared," the voice said. "Your hands are shaking right now, I know. That's normal. The first call is always like this." I froze. I thought maybe I just wasn't fully awake yet. "Who is this?" I asked. There was a pause. Something clicked in that pause, not in the line. In me. "It's you," the voice replied. "Just 10 years later. 2034, for you, the future. For me, a late warning." I didn't laugh. I didn't even say, "What kind of nonsense is this?" I just stood barefoot in the cold room, holding the old receiver, listening to my own voice, only older, lower, worn out. The kind of voice people have when they've smoked too much and slept too little. "You're looking at the clock, right?" the voice asked. 3:34, the first call always comes at this time. Remember that. I glanced at the alarm clock without meaning to. 3:34. "You're joking," I finally said. "This is a prank, some spoofed number." "What is this?" The voice sighed. The sound was painfully familiar. I realized I sighed the same way whenever I was tired. "You've got a gray sock on the floor by your bed," he said calmly. "The one you spent half the day looking for. It's a little under the bed, that's why you didn't see it. In the kitchen you forgot to turn off the keep warm mode on the kettle, it's crackling a bit right now. In your wallet you've got 100 bill, 2 20s, and a supermarket receipt from yesterday. You bought cheap wine and ice cream. To celebrate the move, but without going crazy. That's what you said to the cashier. Remember?" My throat went dry. Not because he guessed. But because this didn't need guessing. It sounded like something I actually said. Same tone, same intonation. I began, but the voice cut me off. "Somebody will bang twice on the radiator in half a minute. Downstairs neighbor. A man in his 60s. He always bangs when someone walks at night. Count." I started counting despite myself. At 27, somebody hit the radiator twice with metal. Loud and annoyed. I jolted like I'd been shocked. "See," the voice said quietly. "This isn't a prank. Not a joke. And not a ghost. It's me. You. 10 years from now. From this same apartment." The pause stretched out. I smelled dust, cold metal on my fingers, felt a faint dark corner where the night hadn't fully retreated. "What do you want?" I finally asked. The voice was silent for a moment. "I want to warn you," he said. "While it's not too late. While the apartment hasn't gotten used to you yet. Later, you'll be the one calling back. Like I am now. And that's a different story." I heard a short rustling on the line, like someone brushed the mic on the other side. "My first gift," he added. "Tomorrow at 9:07, don't go into the building entrance. Stay out for at least 5 minutes. Wait by the shop, be late for work, make up any excuse. Just don't walk into the entrance at 9:07. Got it?" "Why?" I asked automatically. He laughed shortly. I didn't like that laugh. It sounded tight, like a string about to snap. "Because I already did," he replied. "And I saw what happens. But if I tell you everything right away, you won't believe me. So we start small. Just listen. Then decide if it's worth trusting." "How can I trust you?" I whispered. "You already do," he said calmly. "Otherwise you wouldn't still be listening. They're cutting my line. The apartment doesn't like when we talk for too long." "Who's we?" I managed to ask. In response I heard one more heavy sigh. "Until tomorrow," the voice said. "And remember, this apartment is cheap for a reason. It pays itself with a different currency." The connection dropped. The silence grew thick and sticky again. I stood with the receiver at my ear, and it felt warmer than before. Like skin. I put it down and walked to the window. Someone was walking down below, in the yard, their footsteps echoing dull on the asphalt. I suddenly felt like a stranger in my own apartment. Or rather, in an apartment I only thought was mine. My eyes fell on the clock. 3:40. I remembered two things, 3:34 and 9:07. I had no idea yet that those numbers would burrow so deep into me that every time I saw them, it would feel like someone was dialing. I barely slept until dawn. Every time I closed my eyes, my own voice echoed in my head, older, lower, tired. The way people sound when they've seen something they don't want to describe. By 8 in the morning, I already had a plan. Simple, almost childish, check. If nothing happened at 9:07, I'd throw that phone out, call an electrician, have all the wiring checked, and forget about that night call like a weird dream. If I didn't finish that thought, not even to myself. I walked out of the apartment at 8:55. The stairwell smelled of old newspapers and boiled potatoes coming from someone's kitchen. The elevator stood there, its light on, doors open, waiting. I chose the stairs. I wanted to feel every step under my feet, hear my soles scrape the concrete. On the 8th floor, next to a door with a green mat, someone had the radio on quietly. The announcer talked about weather and traffic. On the 6th, a baby was crying. On the 3rd, someone was arguing, muffled but obviously angry. How long is this going to go on? I stepped outside at 9:02. It was gray but calm. The yard was just waking up. Two women with dogs stood by the entrance, arguing about something small and eternal. I stopped a bit further away, near the coffee stand. My phone said 9:03. Americano, no sugar, I ordered mechanically. While the barista fussed with the machine, I realized I was completely tense. Seconds were suddenly thick. 9:05. 9:06. For a moment, I almost walked back to the entrance. Really? My foot even made a step. I felt stupid, a grown man, believing some voice from the future that could easily be a clever prank. I don't even have many friends, and none of them would bother finding such an old phone. 9:07. At that exact moment, a man in a dark jacket went into the entrance. I saw him from behind. He walked fast, carrying a supermarket bag. Nothing special. I actually turned to go back. That's when the entrance exploded. Not like in the movies, no giant fireball or collapsing walls. More like a muffled, heavy blow from inside the building. A cloud of dust burst out through the doorway, the women with the dogs screamed. I heard something heavy fall, maybe plaster, maybe a chandelier. I stood there with my paper cup. The coffee burned my fingers, but I barely felt it. The doors flew open and two people stumbled out, coughing. One was a neighbor I'd ridden the elevator with yesterday. The other, an old woman with an armful of plastic bags. Gas, maybe, someone shouted. Or a blown pipe. Call somebody. No one touched me, no one grabbed my arm and asked where I'd been. I just stood there and watched the man in the dark jacket slowly walk out of the dusty entrance. His jacket was covered in dust. Blood on his forehead. He looked stunned. Knowing he was supposed to walk in exactly at 9:07 was strange. But stranger still was the feeling that I was supposed to be in his place. I raised my eyes to the windows of the 10th floor. One of those windows belonged to my apartment. It stared back at me with silence. When I came home that evening, the phone was already waiting. I could almost hear it not ringing, tense, like someone about to speak. I decided to prepare. I turned on the voice recorder on my phone and set it next to the receiver. Checked twice that it was recording. I felt like I was doing something important, even if I probably looked like an idiot. 3:34. The phone rang the exact second the digits on the alarm flipped. I grabbed the receiver right away, my heart not jumping as wildly as last time. There was something else in there now, focus. "Well," I said into the phone. "Welcome to tomorrow." The voice laughed. "Warmer than the night before." "See?" he asked. "You didn't walk in at 9:07. That's good." "What happened?" I demanded. "Gas. Explosion. There was a guy." "I know," he cut me off. Back then my arm hair burned, I still see the scars in the mirror. Pause. "You don't have them anymore. Different branch. Different track." I glanced at my arm. My skin was clean, except for an old childhood scar I'd had all my life. "Okay," I said. "Let's suppose you really are me from the future. How is this even possible?" "The phone is disconnected. The line is dead." "It's dead in our world," he said calmly. "But not in the apartment. This place is a knot. Between rooms and between times. Different rules here." He paused. "We still don't know why exactly this apartment. Maybe it's how it was built. Maybe it's who died here before us. But the line only works at night, only at 3:34, and only between two us. For everyone else it's just plastic." "We?" I repeated. "You said that yesterday too." He hesitated. "I mean, you and me," he said slowly. "Two versions. Two tracks. Although." He fell silent. "Don't rush it," he added softly. "We still have a few nights. If the apartment lets us." I refused to let the topic go. "Why are you calling?" I asked. "Just to warn me about the gas? Or is there more?" He didn't answer right away. I thought I heard him walking around the same apartment I was in. I glanced around. The walls were where they should be. No extra shadows. "There are things," he finally said, "that you can still change. Small ones, but important. You're already on a different branch than I was. That's good. But there's something that repeats, always. Something that." He drew in a breath. "The apartment likes loops. It likes when stories run in circles. It feeds on that. No matter how many details you change, the main path keeps dragging you back. To the same spot." "To what spot?" I whispered. He laughed humorlessly. "To the door," he said. "It always comes back to the door." At that moment, down in the stairwell, someone slammed metal. Either the entrance door, or mailboxes. The sound rolled up through the pipes and reached my room. I flinched. "You're not alone in the apartment," the voice suddenly said. "I know you think you are. But there's something else. Not a person. Not a ghost, the way we usually think. More like attention." He paused. "It listens when we talk. It doesn't like being tricked. Don't give it a name, don't call it anything. Everything that has a name can be summoned. And it's already too close." I swallowed. "Okay," I said. "Let's be practical. What else do I need to change?" He sounded relieved, like we'd finally gotten to the point. "Tomorrow a woman will call you," he said. "From an agency. She'll offer a new job, a promising project, a bunch of big words. Don't say yes. Don't even go to the interview." Short pause. I said yes. And I regretted it for a long time. That job brought me to people who made me stay in this apartment much longer than I should have. "You're still in it, right?" I asked. He didn't answer immediately. "I'm in it," he finally said. "And that's the problem." His tone suddenly turned lighter. "By the way, did you turn on the recorder? Got it on the table? You think you'll get proof from the future? You'll listen later, convince yourself it's real?" I froze. How did you? I began. Because I did the same thing, he cut me off quietly. In our first version. Put the phone on the table, turned on the recorder, told myself, when I have evidence, then I'll believe. And then I listened. I heard a nervous laugh. Want me to tell you what's on the recording? I said nothing. Nothing, he said. Silence. You talking into a void. Asking who's there. Laughing. Pausing. Asking the same questions you're asking now. But there's no answer. Pause. For this time, I'm just a voice in your head. The line only exists between 2 points. For the rest of the world, we don't exist. I glanced at the recorder. A little red dot pulsed on the screen. It was very easy to believe him. Maybe too easy. Then why can I hear you at all? I asked. If for the world you don't exist. I could hear him smile. Because we're not talking for the world, he whispered. We're talking for the apartment. The line started to hiss. They're pulling me back, he said quickly. Remember, for now you can still go in and out. Don't spend too many nights in a row here. Don't. The sound cut off mid-sentence. I stood with the receiver at my ear, listening to the now familiar, thick silence. The apartment seemed to sigh with me. I hung up and checked the recording. 27 minutes. I hit stop, then play. I heard my own voice. Well, welcome to tomorrow. Then, silence. Perfect, clean, without a single extra sound. I listened to the whole thing. Our entire conversation. Every word I said, every pause, every moment when he laughed or sighed, on the recording, those moments were just empty gaps. Just me. Talking to myself. I turned the recorder off and realized something unpleasant. The scariest part wasn't that the voice was real. The scariest part was that maybe this is exactly how it should look from the outside. A person in an empty apartment. Talking at night into an old, dead phone. The next few days I behaved like someone trying to live normally, but already knows normal is just a thin film. I refused the job. The woman from the agency did call, and she said everything word for word as he described: dynamic team, flexible schedule, growth opportunities. I politely refused, without explanation. Her pause on the other end was oddly long. Like it didn't fit someone's plan. I started noticing little things. For example, the radiator in the bedroom was always a bit warmer than the others. And if you pressed your ear against it, you could hear not just the water flow, but a kind of distant whisper. Not actual words, just the tone, like the scattered whispering of a crowd in a cinema right before the movie starts. Or the crack in the corner of the living room ceiling. At first it was tiny, barely visible. But every night, when I looked at it before sleep, it seemed slightly longer. Like the ceiling was slowly smiling. The phone stayed quiet until the next 3:34. I caught myself waiting for it. That was the worst realization. People get used to anything, even to a voice from their own future talking about explosions and mistakes. That time, it rang a second early. I was watching the clock, hand already reaching for the receiver when it started ringing. You're already waiting, the voice said as soon as I picked up. Not good. But inevitable. Are we safe? I asked instead of hello. Here, now. He paused. It sounded like he was pacing around. Floorboard squeaking, the same as mine. Safe is a big word, he said at last. Let's say it this way, tonight nothing will fall, blow up, or catch fire. Short pause. But the apartment is now closer to you than it was before. What does that even mean? I snapped. You keep talking in riddles, and I'm the one living here, feeling watched through the keyhole. If you really are me, you could try being direct for once. His laugh was harsher now. Fine, he said. Direct. He inhaled. In a few months, you'll stop walking down the hallway at night. At first because it's more comfortable that way. Then because you'll feel something walking there. Not people. Not neighbors. Something else. His voice dropped. One night you'll open the door and see yourself standing there. Not me. A different you. The version that did go through the entrance at 9:07. Pause. With the burnt arm. And someone else's eyes. A chill ran down my spine. You're making this up, I said, like a kid refusing to believe a ghost story. Just to scare me into listening. Oh, you're already listening, he replied quietly. Otherwise this wouldn't be our third night. His tone turned conversational again. By the way, have you met the neighbor on your left yet? I glanced at the wall that, according to the layout, separated my apartment from another. I'd barely heard a sound from there. No, I said. It's quiet there. It shouldn't be, he replied. I used to have a woman living there. With a cat that scratched at her door every night. She argued on the phone, laughed loudly, sometimes cried. The wall is thin, I knew everything about her life even though we barely spoke. He paused. And then one day the noise just stopped. My mouth went dry. She moved out. I suggested. It would be nice, the voice said. But no. She didn't move out. She became part of the apartment. Another pause. Like many before her. And many after. I stepped away from the wall, even though I knew it wouldn't help. The yellow light in the living room was flat and dull, but the corners seemed darker than they should have been. Why did you start calling so late? I blurted out. If you're there in 2034 and you know all this, why not warn me earlier? When I was still looking for a place. When I could just not sign the lease. He laughed faintly. You think I didn't try? He asked. I called not only you. Everyone who lived here before me. And every me that existed in these rooms in other branches. The pause became heavy. But the phone only ever connects to the version that's already done it. Already signed the contract. Already brought their things in. Already put their key on the shelf by the door. Another bitter laugh. The apartment doesn't let me talk to those who can still stay out. It's not stupid. It's not giving up its dinner. So I'm doomed? I asked coldly. In that case, what's the point of all these warnings? He was quiet for a long time. Doomed is another big word, he said at last. On the 10th floor, words matter. He spoke slower, clearer. The point is, some things can be changed. Not all, not the biggest ones, maybe. But enough to change the tone. The degree of pain. The length of it. Pause. In the branch where you walked in at 9:07, you didn't die right away. In the one where you took that job, you met people who brought someone else into the apartment, and it all got much worse. Right now you're already on a different path. And that's something. You talk like the apartment is a living thing, I muttered. And you still think it isn't? He asked softly. It's listening right now. Right on cue, something clicked deep in the radiator. I couldn't help it. If it's listening, why does it let us talk? He smiled, I heard it. Because it's part of the game, he said. It doesn't care about your fear now. It cares about the moment when you walk to the door and hear your own voice on the other side. Pause. And you will. In every branch, you always do. Suddenly it felt like I wasn't standing in my living room, but on a stage. Like everything, the table, the chipped baseboard, had been seen many times before. And someone kept replaying it. 3:58. The connection began to break apart. I have to go, he whispered. One more thing before they cut me off. He spoke faster, afraid he wouldn't finish. When you first hear a whisper from your own future in the hallway, don't open. No matter how much it begs. No matter how many of your own phrases it repeats. Don't open. Remember? Will that also be you? I asked. He inhaled deeply. That's the problem, he said. I'm not sure it will be me anymore. The line went dead. The apartment was silent again. Only this time, the silence felt thicker. Warmer. Like the breath of someone standing too close behind you in the dark. The following days blurred together. Morning, work, evening, coming home, listening to the walls. Every little thing in the apartment now felt like part of something bigger, invisible. I realized the sounds in the stairwell repeated at odd regular times. At 22:14 someone always slammed a door on the 8th floor. At 23:03 heavy footsteps passed by my door, never using the elevator. At 2:47, something metallic clanged downstairs, like someone tossing something into the trash chute. It was like a loop. A worn-out tape. I started going to bed closer to 3. I'd lie there in the dark, watching the red digits on the clock, waiting for 3:34 like the news. The voice didn't call every night. Sometimes he skipped a night, sometimes 2. Said they didn't let the line through, the apartment was busy, someone else was on the wires. I didn't ask who. But each time he sounded darker. He joked less. He paused more. One night he spoke so quietly I could barely make him out. They're closer, he said. I can't walk down the hallway at night anymore. Only to the kitchen and back. The door changed. How changed? I asked. It listens, he replied. If you stand next to it long enough, you can hear something on the other side copy your breathing. In sync. And then, half a heartbeat behind. He paused. It's hard to explain. It'll be easier once you feel it yourself. I don't need to feel it, I snapped. That's why you're calling, right? So I don't repeat your path. Or am I missing something? He laughed quietly, tiredly. We all think we can play this differently, he said. But the apartment has favorite scenes. It doesn't like when they're cut. He abruptly changed the subject. Have you noticed time stretching here? Like 1 minute drags on forever, and then suddenly, snap, and an hour is gone. I wanted to say no, but then I remembered yesterday. I got back from the store at 18:10, put the bags on the table, walked to the bathroom to wash my hands, and when I came back, the clock showed 19:32. I hadn't done anything special. Just walked down the hallway and watched my shadow. I'd thought, wow, that felt like a long walk. And that was it. Yes, I said slowly. Something like that. That's her, he said. The apartment. She's tasting you. Pulling away little pieces of time, watching how you react. A quiet inhale. Don't look back in the dark hallway. Even if it feels like someone's behind you. As long as you don't turn around, it's not someone yet. It's just a possibility. And possibilities here become someone very quickly. I shivered, though the radiators were quietly hissing. Fine, I said, gripping the receiver. What now? I skipped 9:07, I didn't take the job. What else do I have to do to, at least soften the ending? He was silent for a long time. I thought the line had died again, but then he whispered. I'm not sure they'll let us change the ending, he said. But there's one moment that's the real reason I'm spending these nights at all. What moment? I asked. He spoke slowly, cutting every word. Soon you'll hear your own voice not just in the receiver, he said. But in the hallway. It'll call you by name. Say the words you're thinking. Repeat exact phrases. Pause. That won't be me. And not you. It's something that knows us both well enough to copy. He inhaled. Don't open. Whatever you hear. I've already made that mistake. I wanted to ask what happened when he did open. But at that exact moment, someone knocked on my door. I jumped so hard I almost dropped the phone. A dozen logical explanations flashed through my mind: a neighbor, wrong door, delivery, some random misunderstanding. Logic burned away when I heard my own voice from the hall. "Hey, it's me. Open up." The same tone I'd used just now when I said, I wanted to ask, same slight pause before, "Hey." In the receiver, the future voice hissed urgently. "Don't go there. Hear me? Don't go to the door. Don't even breathe in its direction. Just stand still." The knocking repeated. Light, impatient. Goosebumps crawled up my arms. It was my rhythm. 2 short knocks, 1 longer. The way I'd always knock on friends' doors. "I know you're there," said I, behind the door. "You're holding the receiver, your palms are sweaty, you're staring at the handle but too afraid to move. Right?" Something clicked in my head. It was too precise. "Stay quiet," the future voice whispered. "It must not know we're talking. If you say even one word back, it'll have your voice completely." "It already has it," I breathed. "So far it's just copying," he said. "It doesn't understand." "Don't give it understanding." The knocks got louder. The handle jiggled slightly. I'd never seen anyone try to open my door so carefully, almost gently. "Listen," said the voice in the hallway, my voice. "If you don't open now, you'll have to eventually. One way or another. You know that. Say something. So I know you're you." I felt a scream rising in my throat. The simplest question in the world: how do you prove you're you? "Don't answer," the future voice repeated. "It'll keep playing until you say at least one word. It doesn't really need the door. It needs contact. Direct contact." Suddenly, it went quiet outside. No knocking, no voice. I stood there, not breathing, for several seconds that felt like minutes. Then something heavy rushed through the pipes in the wall, as if the hot water flow had reversed. "Is it gone?" I whispered. "Don't talk about it in past tense," he replied. "It's always here. Sometimes closer, sometimes farther." I stepped back from the door. My legs were shaking. "You know," I said, "right now I'm seriously questioning whether I want to keep having these conversations at all." He chuckled. Not meanly, but tired. "Too late," he said. "We've already said too much to each other." Pause. "And honestly, without the calls, you just think you were losing your mind. This way." He sighed. "This way you at least have some kind of structure." A voice from the future is easier than, I don't know who's whispering in my walls. I was about to say something when I felt something very strange. The air in the room grew heavier. The clock flickered, 3:34, 3:35, 3:34, 3:35, then dropped back to 3:34. The red digits jerked like someone was rewinding time back and forth. "Do you see that?" I asked. "I do," he said. "It looked just like that for me back then." His voice was fading, crackling. "That means we're close to the point where our paths stop diverging. The apartment is pulling us together." "And what happens at that point?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. I heard him pacing again in my apartment, floor creaking, something banging faintly in the background, maybe his door, maybe mine. When he spoke, his voice was very quiet. "At that point, we stop being you and me," he said. "For the apartment, we become one long sound. One voice calling itself." Pause. "And then someone new will rent the place. In 10 years. And at 3:34 they'll pick up the phone, and hear us." The clock flickered one last time and froze at 3:34. I tapped the plastic, but the numbers didn't change. What year are you in right now? I suddenly asked. For you, the future, he answered tiredly. For me, the end. He added. You can still get out. Right now. Take your keys, walk out and never come back. Cancel the lease, move to friends, parents, a hostel, I don't care. Every path is better than the one that. His voice cut off, like somebody hit mute. The line hissed. Underneath the static, something new emerged. Not his breathing, not my words. Another whisper. Many voices at once. Distant, but somehow right next to my ear, the way a radiator sounds when you press against it. The phrases were chopped, but I caught some. Feels. 10th. Don't open. Too late. Again. Another one. It sounded like countless voices incredibly similar to mine, all speaking together. Different speeds, different moods. A choir of my own versions, layered over one another. I pulled the receiver away. The sound didn't stop. It seemed to seep into the room through tiny, invisible cracks. I carefully put the receiver down. The phone kept hissing quietly. The clock still read 3:34. I walked to the door. Just stood there, looking at it. I didn't touch it. The handle was absolutely still. You can just leave, the voice had said. The simplest instruction of all. I took my keys from the shelf. They jingled in my hand. I walked up to the door, close enough to touch the lock. Put my fingers on the cold metal. At that moment, in the hallway, outside, I heard my own voice again. Don't go. No knocking. No pause. Just my real, living voice. The tone was different than the caller's, but just as familiar. If you walk out now, it'll all repeat, said the me outside. Just from another side. You don't want that, do you? Come on. Let's talk a bit more. At 3:34. One more night. The last one. I stood there, keys in hand, face almost touching the door, and felt two paths pull apart in my head. One, I open, run down the stairs, not even waiting for the elevator, and never come back. Two, I stay. Put the keys back. Sit on the sofa. Wait for the clock to move again. In the receiver lying on the table, the faint future voice appeared again. Barely audible, but still mine. If you're listening to this now, he said, it means you already made a choice. One of us always makes it the same way. Pause. Just know, once you stay, this will never be just an apartment again. It becomes a conversation. Without an end. Another pause. And someday, years from now, you'll be the one dialing this number. You'll say, don't go in at 9:07. And, don't take that job. And, don't open the door when you hear your own voice. He went on, quieter. And someone else, standing in a dark living room like you are now, will think they still have time to run. I pressed my forehead to the cold door. The hallway on the other side was breathing with my own voice. The apartment behind me was breathing with whispers in the pipes. Somewhere between those two breaths, my choice was hanging. This is where the story should probably give an answer. Tell you what I did. Whether I walked out or stayed. Whose voice you're hearing now, the one who got away, or the one who never dared to open the door. But the apartment loves unfinished sentences. It feeds on what we add in our own heads. So I'll only say this. Every time you glance at the clock at night and see 3:34, somewhere on the 10th floor of an old building, a black, disconnected phone starts ringing. And someone picks it up. And hears their own voice from a year that hasn't come yet. Maybe that isn't my apartment anymore. Maybe, it's already yours.